green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
It's a Wednesday hump day edition of Birds 365 as the countdown continues to the first day of the National Football League season, and even more importantly, the first day of Eagles camp, which is less than 3 weeks away. You got your boys, Mac and Mac, here to talk Eagles football for you for the next 2 hours, and a couple of good Eagle beat reporters joining us today. J-Mac, I saw your latest missive on JAKIBsports.com talking about the Eagles DNA and the fact that they stay true to it. And that's been kind of a key theme during this offseason, and most specifically on draft day. You and I did shows leading up to the draft as soon as the Eagles season was over and done with. Yeah, we talked free agency, but we started to look ahead to the draft and all the draft insiders we have on and making projections and the like. Should anybody be surprised that the Eagles, with 2 first-round draft picks, and remember, at one point they had 3 first-round draft picks. They ended up only taking 1, but with their first 2 draft picks, should anybody be surprised that they took an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman?
No, I mean, every once in a while, Howie lets it out and says it out loud. And this was one of those years because he was kind of talking about the debate. If you remember, in the second round, the claim was, well, if we didn't draft Cam Jurgens, we draft Nakobe Dean. We got him anyway in the third round. You believe that if you want, but when Howie was kind of describing that sentiment, he's like, we're always going to default to the lines. I mean, if it's offensive or deep, we're always, if it's even, they're going to default to the offensive or defensive line. And I don't have a problem with that. I really don't, unless it's a quarterback at the top of the draft. And then if you have players rated even, you might want to at least, entertain the impact of the position being so much greater. But other than that rare circumstance, and that's rarely going to happen because quarterbacks are generally rated above anyway because of that exact scenario. I don't have one iota of a problem with that. The issue for the fan base is it's not sexy. They want receivers. They want playmakers. They want skill position players. Or if it's defense, they want playmakers. And, Jordan Davis isn't, in theory, a playmaker. His role is going to be to make it easier for the playmakers. And I've said that, and I've used that word esoteric, and I'm a little worried about that, to be honest, Jody. I'm a little bit worried about the expectations, and if people can understand the impact a player like that is going to have on the game. I always point to Vita Vea in Tampa Bay. They seem to have done it down there just fine. So I would hope it happens up here just fine if he turns into that type of player. But I'm a little worried about that. You never worry about that receivers. Devontae Smith shows up and has a good rookie season. Everybody's like, yeah, Devontae, everybody sees it. It's right smack dab in front of them. But you know, and I always describe it, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You could have the best quarterback, you could have great receivers, great running back, great tight end. If you can't block anybody, who cares? What are you going to do? If you can't block anybody, those guys can't do their jobs. That's where it all starts for me.
And the Eagles' offensive line is being ranked across the board, not just McDonald and McMullen, and not just the Eagle beat guys like Ed Kratz, who's going to join us coming up in about 15 minutes now. Not just Chris Franklin from NJ.com, who's going to join us in hour number 2. No national publication, national outlets are ranking the Eagles as the best offensive line in the National Football League. So yeah, they've achieved what they wanted to on the offensive line. And, you know, I've had this conversation before about Jordan Davis. You know, I get it, but John Q. Public, average fan, is going to say, yeah, but McMullen, don't give me esoteric. There's Aaron Donald. He puts up numbers too, and he plays the defensive tackle position. So why can't Jordan Davis put up Aaron Donald-like numbers? Well, because there's only one Aaron Donald on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
And
that's
that's
kind of
not
an unfair comparison.
Yeah, you could compare anyone to him. It's probably a little bit unfair. But I'm telling you, that's what they're going to do, because you have to understand the whole concept about tackles not getting the same sacks that ends and or rushing linebackers do. And that's fine, but Aaron Donald kind of skews the whole conversation. And as I pointed out to you a couple of weeks ago here on the show, the thing that rubs even more salt in the wounds is they were both the 13th pick in the draft. So they were selected in the exact same spot in the first round. Yeah. So some people are going to want that out of.
But, you know, for people in Philadelphia, maybe a good comparison would be like you take a defensive end, you know, somewhere in the first round, could be in the top 5, like Chase Young or Bosa or somebody like that. And you automatically expect him to be Reggie White. Well, the odds are against that. That's who Aaron Donald is, people. That's, you know, he's one of the greatest defensive players who've ever lived. So I would not start any comp off with Aaron Donald, but that's just me.
Right. But the one reason why the fans will do it is Aaron Donald's still playing. Reggie, as great as he was, nobody's seen him in a decade. He's been out of the National Football League. God rest his soul. He is no longer with us either. That's why it's easier to comp to Aaron Donald, because guess what? He's going to play again this year, despite his wink, wink, nod, nod flirtation with retirement. Oh, shockingly, he got his contract renewed, and he's going to go at it again for another year. Way to go, Aaron. Yeah, that was a ploy to get his contract redone. He's still around. So that's why people are going to make the comparison between Jordan Davis and Aaron Donald. And he's just not going to put up those kind of numbers because nobody else ever has. I do want to get a Jalen Hurts point in, and we've talked plenty of Jalen this week. We're going to do so with both of our guests today, Ed Kratz and Chris Franklin. Great stat from our buddy Ruben Frank on NBC Sports Philadelphia. His observation column comes out either Saturday, Sunday, at different times during the off season, but I think I saw it either Sunday night or Monday. I don't remember which. And he does a great job with some of the stats he comes up with. I had no idea that they were oftentimes the case. His stat of the week this week for Jalen Hurts was this: players in the National Football League last season who rushed for 10 or more yards on any play. There were only 4 players in the entire league that had 10 yards or more on a run 29 times or 29 or more times this past year. Jonathan Taylor had like 50. Nick Chubb had like 35 or 36. Who was the other one? There was 3 running backs.
Dalvin, I think. Dalvin.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook had in the low 30s, and Jalen Hurts had 29. There were only 3 running backs who had more 10-yard or more gains in the league than Jalen Hurts. He was 4th in the league in 10-yard gains, and that's every other team's running back included, except for Cook, Chubb, and Jonathan Taylor. Here's my concern here, J-Mac. In the moment, you get all excited about it, but then it just becomes part of the yards gained when the game is over and done with. But those 10-yard bust-out runs by the quarterback not only move the sticks, get your first down, not only led to 10 touchdowns last year, but they were also demoralizing runs. That takes a bigger chunk out of a defense mindset if the quarterback takes off and runs for 10, 12 yards than an out to Devontae Smith who toe taps and gets out of bounds and stops the clock. You give that kind of play up, all right, let's go, reset the downs, let's go. But when a quarterback does that, that can be kind of backbreaking to a defense. And if the Eagles get what the Eagles want going into this season, there's going to be less of that this year. They want Jalen Hurts to hang in the pocket and throw it to A.J. Brown and throw it more to Goddard and throw it more to Smith, which, with all intents and purposes, should work and should keep the chains moving. But will it be that same kind of gain? I know the league is a passing league, and when a quarterback is running as much as Jalen did, he's putting himself at risk, and we know the Eagles care about putting people at risk. When in doubt, don't practice. No one is talking about that. No one is mentioning this, that, if we pass it more, Jalen's going to be running it less. And he's pretty damn effective at running it last year. I just gave you the stat. Ruben gave it to you. I'm just repeating it. He was 4th in the league of 10-plus yard rushes last year. Could the Eagles be downplaying a key element of their offense?
Well, they want to, I guess it depends how you look at it. One of the things, you use the term demoralizing, and the description that you gave is a perfect example of it. A little toe tapping reception versus, say, 3rd and 10, and you do everything right defensively, and all of a sudden the quarterback leaks out at the last minute, gets a 10-yard gain. That's demoralizing. Yep. On the other hand, if you got a 9-man box and you say, oh, we know Jonathan Taylor's going to get the ball, and you got everybody up there and you run it and you still run it for 10 yards, that could be even more demoralizing. So the reason I bring that up is it's different, right? Running backs, they're getting the ball. If they're going to run the ball, it's a design run. Quarterback, I'd love to see the number of Jalen Hurts. How many of those are designed? I would say not a lot. Probably, maybe there's a couple. I would say 80 to 90.
I think more than that.
Most of his big runs were off schedule, and that's a big part of his game, and that part's not going away. Let
me ask you this: RPO, is that designed?
Zone read is designed. RPO, it's a little bit more, it's a run pass option. It's built into the term. It's an option for the quarterback. Now, a lot of coaches use that as Chip Kelly used to do that as a sort of fallback and not let you in. Sometimes they call it a run. They say just run it. Sometimes they're calling a pass play, but they'll call it an RPO, acting like it's a run pass option on the play. Essentially, what you're supposed to do is read the one defensive player. You're supposed to read, depending on what he does, you either throw the ball or run the ball. So it's in the ether. Do you consider that a design run or a design pass? Depending on the day, Nick Sirianni will tell you, well, that counts as a run. You heard that last year, remember, when he was getting criticism? Well, that counts as a run. That's a run pass option, even though they threw the ball. So it's kind of convoluted. But
that's why I think a lot of his successful running plays were RPOs. And yes, I, like Nick Sirianni, would consider that a designed running play.
Well,
you just don't make the decision to let split second that in play, you got to make that call. But once you make that call, it's a designed running play.
Well, we had that discussion on the show last season, Jody, when he was throwing the ball. Instead, it's an RPO. and it counts as a run, you weren't on board.
No. Did Sirianni really try that?
Yes.
No. Once the play is run, we find out whether it's a run or a pass. You got to put it down in the column that it ended up.
We even had that discussion on the show, and I'm with you. I'm like, you're stretching that.
No, that's fudging. No, that doesn't count. But if if the quarterback takes off and runs with it, I consider that a designed running play. But even though a pass was part of an option at one point, you decide by what the play ends up being.
Either, my larger point is it's not the same as Taylor or Chubb or Cook. And Lamar Jackson's in this category as well. Those two led the NFL in yards per attempt. Lamar Jackson was 1, Jalen Hurts was 2. And then it was Taylor, Chubb, and Miles Sanders tied at 5.5 yards per carry. The quarterbacks were above. The quarterbacks are above because a lot of their runs are off schedule. You're not prepared. You're not, and you're right as far as the deviation of that being what was the word you use? It can be very demoralizing for a defense.
Backbreaking.
When you pull that football down. That part of it, we can debate the other part of it. The Eagles definitely want to run the ball less. No question about it. But the off-schedule part of it, where you get so many of those explosive runs, that's not going away because most of that is off-schedule. So I don't think you have to worry about that as much as some people worry about. Maybe you get a few less RPOs. Who cares?
Let me ask you about some of those off-schedule runs. Will the team, when they actually have practice, I'm looking forward to that. They're going to actually have 11 guys on the field on offense and 11 guys on the field on defense. That will be very interesting with the Eagles since we haven't seen it since last February or January, excuse me. Will they drill down on Hurts that they want him to hold that ball that extra half second, that they want him to get that look at his fourth option, his fourth read, rather than just go, I'm out, and up the field he goes and tries to make 10 or 12 or 14 or 18 yards with his legs? Will that be an emphasis on the offense this year, that there's a reason why we got A.J. Brown? Because we think he's going to get tighter coverage. So when you check down to Smith and you check down to Governor, damn it, Quez should be wide open. If you get to your fourth read and your first 3 guys were covered, he's got to have one-on-one coverage. You got to be able to get the ball to him. Will they emphasize he hang longer, wait longer, continue to give a guy a chance to get open rather than take off and make a play with his legs?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've emphasized that since he got here. I think Doug emphasized that. I think Nick emphasizes that. I think, coaches will emphasize that. But Nick has also said that, that's the conventional thinking because, it's easier to throw the ball down the field than to run it down the field. But, when you have somebody so effective as Jalen Hurts versus or Lamar Jackson, sometimes those runs turn into 20-yard runs. And if you dump the ball off to the back as a fourth option, maybe you get 10 yards, maybe you get 8 yards, maybe you get a more explosive play by running the football with those types. So it's a fine line, but they'll definitely press. Look, I think those days are over, Jody. What you're saying, the progressions, the 4 progressions. I mean, who does that? Maybe Aaron on occasion. Of the young quarterbacks, it's 1 read, 2 read, go. Maybe 1 read, 2 read, safety valve, go. Jalen's going to be, I think where you want to get him is 1 read, 2 read, go versus 1 read, go. I think that's where you want to get him consistently.
I have, and it is now however many months since the season ended. The diehard Eagle fans that we have streaming with us here on Birds 365 certainly have that good a memory, but the kind of casual Eagle fan forget how important those runs he made last year was. that number brought it all back to me that, yeah, he used to make some really big plays with his 10 rushing touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. That one kind of jumps up and screams at you. And the Eagles have worked hard to improve their passing game, with A.J. Brown being the certainly biggest addition of them all. Oh, I can't forget Zach Pascal. He's going to come in and do huge things. Well, he's going to block, but he's now part of the passing game too. So I'm just wondering. I have a little concern that Jalen Hurts won't be making as many plays, big plays, game-changing plays with his leg. Do we just insert the passing plays and think that they're going to cover as many as Jalen had last year? I'm not sure. I hope it's the case, but we'll have to see once the season starts. All right, you got McMullen and McDonald. We will be joined by our buddy John's running mate from Sports Illustrated, Eddie Kratz, joins us next here on Birds 365.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
You got your Mega Mac guys here on Birds 365 on the JAKIB YouTube channel. Please hit that like button. Go ahead, hit it right now. Give us some love. We could use it. We're working hard. We earned it for you. We got the show off on time today. You got no complaints, streaming fans of Birds 365.
Oh, they have complaints, Jody. Trust me, they have complaints.
They can, but they're not justified today. Other days, yeah, they can kind of get away with it. And they should not be complaining about the fact that we've added our bud Ed Kratz into the mix, the Eagle Maven from Sports Illustrated. All right, I'm going with both of you guys here. I'm enjoying the top 25 list you got out on the Eagles. Best football players, a little different than some other outlets that are doing most important players. You guys just went straight best football players. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you got halfway through your list to number 13 today, and you've got quarterback Jalen Hurts, correct?
That is correct. It's the perfect day. It seems like Jalen Hurts week. Lucky number 13 Ed Kratz, Jalen Hurts. And just to let everybody know, if it were up to Ed, he'd be higher than that. So blame me for Jalen playing down the list. What did I have Jalen at? It's like 17, somewhere in there.
No, John, you had him at 19.
Yeah, 19, somewhere.
That's
yeah.
I had him
That's
at
a little.
9. I had him in the top 10.
There's a lot of good players on this. A lot of good football players on this team. A lot of good football. Now, our buddy Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports Philadelphia is doing a top 25 list, but his top 25 list is most important Eagles players.
Right.
Now, if I were doing that, Ed, I'd have Jalen number 1, as I imagine he's going to have Jalen number 1. But best pure football players, hey, Eagles got a good roster now. Howie Roseman deserves a lot of credit, and people are going to see that as we get into their top 12. A lot of good football players on this team.
Yeah, you mentioned pure football players. I had Jake Elliott on my list at number 21, which gave him some votes. Actually, I might have had him a little higher, but I think he finished 21 on our list because, because you didn't have him on your list, John.
Yeah, and unless you're Justin Tucker, I hold being a kicker against you. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's a great kicker, but yeah, I have a tough time putting kickers in the list of top 25 players.
Yeah. See, I think
here's where I'm going to have an issue with both of you guys. And for those who don't know, didn't see last time we had Ed on, John and Ed each ranked their top 25. Then they divided between the two to come up with their list. So they balanced it out between themselves. So my problem will be with both of you guys. If we're going backwards, because I could pretty much tell you who the top 12 are going to be, the 12 best players who are left, who you haven't gotten to yet. What order they're in, I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out for you guys. Should be fun. But I could tell you who the 12 are. So going backwards, Jalen at 13. You had Avante at 14. Landon Dickerson at 15. Miles at 16. TJ Edwards, 17. 18 was Jordan Davis. 19 was Bradbury. 20 was Isaac Seumalo. 21, you mentioned Jake Elliott. 22 was Quez Watkins. 23, Kazir White. 24, Derek Barnett. 25, Jake Driscoll. Which means if he's not in the top 12, which I don't think he's going to be in the top 12, you do not have Nakobe Dean on this list. Correct?
We can't give that away. Sure we can. No, he's not on the list.
You're going to put him in your top 12?
No, he's not on the list. No. And he shouldn't be on the list.
Well,
excuse me?
I had him on my list, Jody.
Good for you, Crap.
Ed, I think Ed, what'd you have him, 24?
I had him 24, 25, but because of the way the point system worked, he did not make the top 25, but he was on my list ahead of Derek Barnett.
He might be on the top 25 next year. I mean, I had a tough time putting Jordan Davis on the top 25 because he hasn't done anything. But he's got so much talent. I put him on the list. It wasn't like
he was 25 or 24 or 23 or 22 or 21 or 20 or 19. You got him at 18. What do you mean you had a hard time putting him on the list?
Because I had a hard time putting him on the list, but that's how much I think of the particular player and the projection. We're talking, Jody, I know you like the player. We're talking about an undersized third-round pick. I have difficulties, like when we're talking about Jalen Hurts at number 13, and we'll get back to that in a second. Take a look at Kaiser White and where he is, and James Bradbury and where he is. Now, they haven't done it in Philadelphia. James Bradbury even more than Kaiser White. That's a former Pro Bowl player. Now, how do I put Jalen Hurts, say that he's better at what he does than James Bradbury is at what he does? That to me is a difficult conversation. So any rookie is difficult to put me on the list of a good team. The Eagles are a good team. Now, maybe on a bad team or a team that is, bottom 5, maybe it becomes a little bit easier. For me personally, it's tough to put rookies at all, but there's a big difference between the 13th overall pick and a third-round undersized linebacker who's got proven players in front of him. by the way. I got to see it burst.
Okay. All I'm telling you is, and will it be fair when the season is over and done with? Can we all sit down and objectively say what was contributed on the field that Nakobe Dean is going to be a top 25 player for the
possible? From my part, it's certainly possible.
I'd be willing to bet damn good money that the possible becomes.
Yeah, but we're talking like when I wrote about, because I did the Jordan Davis story. And what I wrote, I think what I wrote is, next year at this time, you're probably going to be looking at 18 and saying that's quaint. Like, that's way undervaluing Jordan Davis. He's going to be a potential top 10. Maybe the same thing happens with Nakobe Dean. But again, you got to see it. You're a production guy, Jody. You got to see it. They haven't done anything.
Production. He had more production in college than any player in the National Football.
Yeah, but that's college. Last year. That has nothing to do.
You're projecting what Jordan Davis is going to do, because his numbers weren't near what Nakobe Dean's numbers were. So if you're willing to project, why won't you project Nakobe Dean be able to do in the NFL what he did in college?
Well,
yeah, I can just say I think Jordan Davis is going to have more of a role than Nakobe Dean.
I don't.
At least I think initially, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Nakobe Dean. Because like John said, there are players ahead of him, and nothing's going to be handed to him.
I think don't the Eagles have those guys named Javon Hargrave and Fletcher Cox ahead of?
But they
Jordan
have
Davis?
more. The defensive line, they use more of the rotation though. So Jordan Davis is going to see his time. I'm not sure how much they're going to rotate their linebackers. Now they might, put Nakobe Dean in there for a play or, two, and then let him grow into a role. But the defensive line is notoriously rotated. So he's your third tackle, your third defensive tackle. And I think that's reflected in the list because Javon Hargrave was higher, I think. Right. And Fletcher still has not been revealed yet, but he's the third guy. I mean, Milton Williams is also. I gave some thought to putting Milton Williams in there because I think he is a very good player. He had a very good rookie year, but I just think Jordan Davis is going to be your third defensive tackle right out of the gate, and they're going to move Milton Williams around and they're going to rotate Williams in there too. But I think Davis is going to play quite a bit, and Jonathan Gannon even told us that he's going to be a 3-down player.
Well, eventually, eventually they hope. I don't think he's going to be a 3-down player right off the bat.
Yeah, he can't be, not with Cox and Hargrave.
But I think the hope is eventually turns into that 3-down player, and we'll see. I don't even think he has to, but that's just my personal opinion. You'd like to see it, but rookies need time to grow, and I think Nakobe's in a good situation where. He'll get an opportunity to grow. Last year, the same type of thing happened in the fact that, they're trying to throw out Eric Wilson out there, who was, terrible. And it was a mistake. And all of a sudden they said, well, let's start taking a look at TJ and Davion Taylor. Alex Singleton as well was in the mix. And, all of a sudden TJ started to play well and bang, he's on the field. I think Nakobe Dean will have that same opportunity. You mix in, if he's better than Kaiser White, you play him. But maybe it's more the second half of the season. Maybe it's week 5, week 6. Maybe it's a little bit earlier. But I think it's going to be sticking the toes in the pool. I don't think they're throwing them in the deep end week 1. That's how I look at where Nakobe. And plus, we haven't even talked about the health issues. And you go all the way back to the draft, guys, and how we said, no, he's fine. He's fine. Well, he didn't do much in OTAs. They said he'd be out there. He was out there. But remember,
who did a lot in OTAs, John?
No, well, yeah, part of that is there's no teamwork. And we were only out there for 2 practices, an hour and a half total. But I got to tell you, the first practice, and it was TJ and Kaiser, and then it was Nakobe and Davion. Now I think Nakobe was actually on the third team. They started him a little bit slower, but He was out there. And then the second practice, he wasn't even out there. They were starting to look at the overhang players, as Jonathan got. So it was Barnett, it was Patrick Johnson, it was Kyron Johnson. So I don't even know if he's healthy on top of that. And I don't even know if he's going to be fully healthy from this pec issue week 1. So that plays into it as well. But yeah, after the season, Jody, I said the same thing about Jordan Davis. Hopefully, Nakobe Dean's like 15. Hopefully he makes a splash. But I can't put a 3rd round pick in the top 25 of this team.
So you let where they were drafted dictate to you more so than what they did on the collegiate football level.
Well, part of it is, again, if what, the greatest college football player, some people will argue, could be Tim Tebow. Okay, who cares? At the SEC level, as a college football player, and it's still astonishing to me to this day that he was a 1st round pick. But he was a 1st round pick because people bought into it. People bought into his success at Florida, and he was one of the greatest college football players of all time. This is a different level. It is more difficult to play at this level, especially when you have some of the traits that Nakobe has that didn't allow him to be drafted where his production level should have put him at. If that makes sense.
I say shame on the other 31 teams in the National Football League. And kudos to the Eagles for getting that kind of a talent where they got him in the draft.
And let's not forget the Eagles didn't think he'd be sitting there, when, what was it, number 82 or 83 when he came?
83. No, they wanted him at 51, but they wanted Cam just a little bit more.
There was no way. Going into the draft, that's why they signed Hassan Reddick and Kaiser White, 2 very, very good veterans, in my opinion. Kaiser White had 144 tackles last year. Now I know, the Chargers defense wasn't that good, but he is very active. I think he's very good at covering tight ends, which was a problem for this defense last year. Tight ends just got the better of the Eagles all season long. And the Eagles didn't think they were going to be getting a linebacker in the draft. Now, maybe they thought they'd get Kyron Johnson where they did in the 6th round, but they did not think Nakobe Dean would be sitting there. They had rebuilt this linebacker group with that in mind. So Nakobe Dean was just kind of the cherry on top of the cake. And he's a guy that, and why I had him on my list, but not real high, was just because I just don't know what kind of role we're going to see for him this year, especially early on. I mean, he's going to have to come in, prove himself. And John makes a good point with the health. He could be one of those players that they manage throughout camp where he's not practicing every day. And then how does that impact a rookie? We saw that with Landon Dickerson. He didn't have a lot of time in camp last year. He was put on the PUP list once training camp started, and he was on there for a month, came off, I think, August 30th, and then he was inactive for the first game, but then he obviously had a big role. Granted, it's a different position than linebacker, but still, I think the Eagles are going to manage Nakobe Dean, and they're going to try to keep that pec or that shoulder. He's had some shoulder issues. They're going to try to keep him as healthy as he can be. I don't think we're going to see him out there practicing every day. I think he's going to be managed, and I think that will delay kind of the start to his career.
What we don't know about, you're right, we never know about injuries. How the hell can we know? We don't have a crystal ball to look into. Injuries can go other ways, though. Like you said about Landon Dickerson. Oh, he's not even practicing. Oh, he's on the PUP list. Oh, why'd we take him in the 2nd round? Uh-oh, here goes injuries to other guys on the offensive line. Right. Dickerson gets slotted in there, and he cracks you guys top 15, right? As a guy who we didn't know anything about in camp, and all of a sudden now he's on your top 15 list. What happens if Kaiser White gets hurt?
That's exactly what I think the hope is. I mean, that's exactly. I wouldn't have had Landon on the top 25 list last year coming into the season. Just like I don't have Cam Jurgens on the top 25 list, and he's the 51st overall pick. There's not going to be a role for him, barring injury. So that factors into it. But even if Jason Kelce retired, and they picked Cam Jurgens to start at center, I wouldn't have him on the top 25 list. I mean, it's really good.
But John, where did you have Davis?
Probably 16, 15, 16. I think Ed had him a little bit lower. Do you have the voting there? I forget. I'm getting.
I don't have it in front of me, but
yeah.
That's why I question when you say I couldn't put him on the list, but you put Davis at 16.
Because I think more of Jordan Davis than Nakobe Dean. I think more of Jordan Davis than Cam Jurgens. And by the way, so does the rest of the NFL. One guy is the 13th pick in the draft, and by the way,
if you're going to tell me that you're going to make your list off the draft, okay, fine, I understand. I would put more into it than that.
No, I'm telling you, anybody who's listening to this show, and you should be listening to this show, Jody, knows how much I think of Jordan Davis as a player before the draft even started. When I said the Eagles are probably going to take him, probably going to get trade up. Yeah, I'm patting myself on the back to take him. I think he is a difference maker. I think he is a Vita Vea type player. I think there is maybe 10 players a year that come into the NFL with the kind of potential of Jordan Davis. That's not an insult to Cam Jurgens or Nakobe Dean. I think he is a top-tier potential all-pro like player, and I still have difficulty putting rookies on that list, but he's different to me than those guys. And yeah, part of it is, and the NFL is telling you by where he's slotted that he's different from those guys. They don't always get it right, and they might get it wrong with Jordan Davis, but potential-wise, he might be the best 6'6", 345-pound athlete to ever play in the NFL at the defensive tackle position. I mean, that's the kind of physical attributes he has. And you're talking about an undersized linebacker. I'm sorry, Jody, there's a difference. There's a difference.
John, there's a significant difference. I'm not going to judge anybody being undersized until I see him play in the National Football League. I don't care what the prototypical
Okay, what about the athleticism for the position?
Aaron Donald was drafted at number 13 when John McMullen said he should have been drafted in the top 5. Why? Because he was undersized. So I don't give a shit if a guy is undersized.
But he was still
if he's a great
13,
player, plain
Jody.
and simple.
But he was still number 13, even though he was undersized. What about the athleticism part of it? Nakobe Dean wasn't the most athletic linebacker on Georgia. He was the third most athletic linebacker on Georgia. Jordan Davis is the most athletic 6'6", 340-pound player this league has ever seen. Never mind Georgia, never mind the Eagles. The entire National Football League has never seen a defensive tackle put up the type of physical traits that he did with the combine and all the drills and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you don't believe in that, that's fine, but that's why where he is. That's why he's where he is as a project, and people think he's projecting him to be a dominant player. And that's the difference.
To this day, you have to look at that stuff, but it just disappears as soon as he has a season in the National Football League. Jordan Davis will have the season he has, and he will produce to the level that he produces. Nakobe Dean will have the season he has, and he'll produce to the level he's going to produce. What they did in the combine, what their size is, how athletic they are, becomes completely irrelevant once you have something to judge, and that's actual performance on the National Football League field. Right now, you're projecting, I'm projecting, Ed's projecting. We're all just projecting because neither one of us played down in the league. But once they play, the fact that he high jumped in Indianapolis in shorts doesn't mean a flying you know what.
Well, it helped Aaron
use
Donald.
it now, but it's going to go by the boards within the next 6 months.
Well, if you look at college production, okay, you mentioned college production to Judge Dean and Davis. There's the perception that a lot of Dean's production and numbers were put up because of what Davis was able to do in front of him. Occupy blockers, let Dean flow and make plays. So while the numbers didn't turn up on the stat sheet for Davis, and they might not this year either because of just the way he plays, the way he's able to occupy 2. And Brandon Graham even said, hopefully 3 blockers. That frees up other guys to make plays. And to me, that if you're looking at college, and I know Dean had a great college career numbers-wise, but I think a lot of that, you have to look at the guys in front of him, guys like Jordan Davis, who helped him do that. And I think that's what allowed him to excel as an undersized linebacker. Now, he's got great traits. He's got great speed. He's got great instincts. And we'll see how that manifests itself when Jordan Davis isn't in the game and Nakobe Dean is in the game. But I think Davis, by the way he's able to occupy blockers, will benefit that second level of the defense.
Yeah, and Jody and I, but that's one of my concerns with Jordan Davis, because a lot of his impact doesn't show up on the stat sheet, and it might be disappointing. And I use that word esoteric all the time when you're making other players better because you're engulfing blockers. And by the way, it's not just supposed to be TJ and Nakobe and Kaiser White, but also the edge rushers. It's supposed to make things easier for Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, as Brandon mentioned. And hopefully, it plays out. But that's what the Eagles are looking for when it comes to Jordan Davis. And by the way, it's not an insult to Nakobe Dean. Hopefully he's in a similar situation that he was in Georgia when he had Jordan Davis in front of him, and he still has Jordan Davis in front of him. Man. And he does have this high football IQ, and he does have these great instincts. And I look at TJ Edwards as similar undrafted guy who was great in college, by the way. People don't realize he was, an All-American. He was second in the Butkus Award, which Nakobe won back when he was with Wisconsin. But he couldn't run, right? 4.78, I think, was the 40 time. So you have all this college production, and he doesn't even get drafted. TJ Edwards, I'm talking about. But he comes into the NFL. He starts 9th on the depth chart, TJ said, what he got here. And he turns out to be the team's best linebacker. But it took a while. And he turned out to be the team's best linebacker because of his football instincts, his football IQ. And, oh, by the way, he kept working on it. And he's much faster than 4.78. He's never going to be a 4.4 guy. But so Nakobe Dean's got an opportunity to be a very, very good player in this league. But yeah, I mean, college production is not the be all end all. And the NFL is not going to pay attention and say, okay, this kid was great at college. And sometimes when they do that, Tim Tebow again, sometimes they get it wrong when they just rely on that. Even at Georgia, even at Alabama, if you just rely on college production, you're probably going to get it wrong. But that's just mine.
Yeah. John, you're making my argument for me. Thank you very much. TJ Edwards, another one who was underdrafted. Had you looked at the college production, you could have got your hands on a starting linebacker in the National Football League.
You just took out the one guy.
Why would I not give Nakobe Dean that same kind of thing when he's only a third-round draft pick? You mean he was only taken in the third round? I don't care where he was taken. I have my evaluation of how good the player's going to be. And other teams, kudos to the Philadelphia Eagles for seeing what they saw in TJ Edwards. But other teams could have got their hands on TJ Edwards too if they watched his college tape.
Did you hear the Tim Tebow part of the conversation as well? The SEC is littered with players who had tremendous college production and did nothing at the professional level. Michael Sam, co-SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Big story because he was, I believe, the first draft pick to come out as gay. But he was a hell of a college football player. Led the nation in sacks. Again, co-SEC Defensive Player of the Year. But he was 6'2", and he didn't have long arms. And he didn't project as an edge rusher at the pro level, and he wasn't fast enough to move the linebacker. He couldn't play. I remember Dontarius Thomas from Auburn. He was a 4-star student. He ran a 4.4. I remember the Vikings told me, this guy's going to be the best coverage linebacker in football. He's so smart. He was awful. He was one of the worst coverage linebackers I've ever seen. He just didn't have a feel for the game. There's my point, Jody, is there's 100 examples in one direction, 100 examples in the other direction, where I think Nakobe and TJ match up, and I think it's a positive. Football IQ instincts. Football IQ instincts. And if you have the players around you, and Nakobe Dean certainly had the players around him at Georgia, hopefully he'll have them here at Philadelphia. That means he's got a chance. He's got a chance. It's not an insult, though, to say last smack dab day one, you're not in the top 25 of a team that has the 7th best roster in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. Do you think that's an insult? Let's let Ed say.
Sorry, Ed, I just got to get this in.
Go.
Here's where I come to the defense of Nakobe Dean. He's going to be better than the entire last 5, maybe the last 7 or 8 that you guys have on the list. Jake Driscoll's started, a handful of games in the National Football League? I don't think he's starting this year. I think Isaac Seumalo, if he stays healthy, which we know he never does, is going to get plugged in to the right guard. Jake Driscoll's going to have a good time sitting on the bench this year. He's not going to play. Nakobe Dean's going to play, and you got Jake Driscoll in at number 25. So, yes, I think you did a disservice to him.
Well, Jack has played. Jack's from the SEC. Jack was
and Jack played, but you got, again, we're back to Davis is ranked higher, and he's never played it down. So there is some projection involved in your list, and I'm projecting Nakobe Dean to step in, to play, to put up stats, to help the Eagles win games, whereas for this upcoming season, I think Jack Driscoll's going to have a good time sitting on the bench for the Eagles.
Nakobe Dean to Jordan Davis, you could just as easily compare Nakobe Dean to Grant Calcaterra as a 3rd-round pick versus a 6th-round pick, or Kyron Johnson. Why is Nakobe Dean thought to be better than those guys? Not only because of his production in college, but because he was selected in the 3rd round. They were selected on day 3. You're talking about a top 13 pick in the NFL draft and saying, oh, that's no difference than a guy who slid to the 3rd round.
I know you haven't gotten to him yet. Where was Jason Kelce drafted?
6th round.
Okay. Well, and at some point, where you're drafted goes by the wayside. That you purely judge what the guy does in the National Football League.
And when Nakobe's got 4 All-Pros on the resume, I'll have him really high on the list, Jody. Really high. Until he gets those.
Where was Jack Driscoll drafted?
4th round.
4th round.
4th round. Okay.
But he has started 13 games in 2 years. 20, and he's played in 20 games. Okay, in what, two seasons. So that's 33 games. He's played in 20 of those, and he's made 13 starts. He's a valuable reserve on this team. Even if he doesn't start, he is a very key backup. He's your first guy off the bench if there's an injury. And who knows, maybe he wins that right guard spot from Isaac Seumalo. I don't think so. I don't think John thinks so. But he's a valuable reserve. He's proven to be that. And even though I didn't have Driscoll on my top 25, I had Nakobe Dean in there, and John had Driscoll, I think, 24 or wherever. He's valuable, and I can see value in being in the top 25 if you're the guy, especially the Eagles' offensive line, which hasn't stayed healthy all year, and rarely do offensive lines all stay healthy through the course of 16, 17 games now. So you need depth, and Jack Driscoll is a very, very good depth piece, and he's very valuable to have on this roster. So I don't have a big complaint with him being in the top 25, down at number 25.
Yeah,
because
and in fact, with Jack, I mean, the thing with me and Jack and why I put him on the list, he not only played, he played well. I mean, he played well, and by the way, I didn't expect it, to be honest. I thought he didn't play that well as a rookie at right tackle, and he came in as a right tackle, a natural right tackle. Then all of a sudden he's got to play right guard. You say, well, this is going to be ugly. And it wasn't. He played really, really well to the point the Eagles think maybe he's going to be better long-term inside. That wasn't the original plan. And I think Pro Football Focus had him graded number 20 in the entire league as a guard last year. So you think about that. There's 32 teams, right? So that means there's 64 starting guards in this league. Jack Driscoll was 20. 20. Now, part of that is Jeff Stoutland. No doubt about it, him getting players up, and he's had a tremendous history of that. And look, I think if he played more, that probably regresses a little bit back to the mean. People start game planning you a little bit better. And he's certainly got the injury issues, which are real, and you got to throw them in the mix. But that guy played really, really well when given the opportunity. I think he belongs on the list. Yeah, but you know, and 25 is 25 where it is.
Right.
There's 22 starters.
Because I'm as big a fan of Nakobe Dean as I am. Somebody's got to go. So if he's 25, he's got to be the guy who's a limit. I got no problems if you want to keep Driscoll and drop Derek Barnett. You know that. I got no problem taking Barnett off the top.
Well, I know nobody has any problem taking Derek off the list.
He wasn't on my list either.
But he's a good football player.
Yeah.
He's a good football player. Just not as good as he was supposed to.
Well, Jody, would you have put Kaiser White behind Nakobe Dean at this point?
Absolutely.
You would. Okay.
Ask me about the Eagles' other linebacker.
TJ?
I would put Nakobe Dean ahead of TJ Edwards. And I know how good a season Edwards has last night. I'm harping on production. Oh, TJ gave you a ton of production last year. I think that Nakobe Dean steps in and is the best.
You like the player. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You clearly like the player. You thought he should have been a first-round pick.
Correct.
I think even before it, and if you go back to the pre-draft process, guys, and we got to get Ed out of here. Apologize in the middle of Jody and I's argument. But if you go back to the pre-draft process, you know, most of the mock drafts, they had Devin Lloyd going first at linebacker, Nakobe going second, both as first-round picks. But as you got later into it and you got more of the NFL scouts and they're talking to us and all that kind of stuff, then it became, man, this guy might not be a first-round pick. He might bridge into the second round.
Because God forbid the measurables didn't come back the way you wanted at the combine.
That's part of it. But and Jody, you might remember, I kept asking, I think it was Karlaftis, it was Nakobe Dean, and there was a third player I can't remember, who I sort of got the feel were dropping a little bit. And I said on the show, I said, Nakobe's not going to be a first-round pick. I had no idea about the injuries, and that, you know, he should have been a second-round pick without the injuries. But nobody has any idea of that, and that's why he fell into the third round. But yeah, I mean, it's 5'11". I mean, it's tough. You know, Avonte Maddox was 14th on our list. Avonte was a terrible outside corner when the Eagles tried to play him there. Terrible. He's one of the best nickel corners in the game. Why is he terrible outside and he's great inside? Part of it is measurables. I mean, it does matter. Ed?
Yeah, well, listen, here's what I think we should do. I think when the season's over, the three of us should put down our top 25 Eagles players, the best players after the season's over.
Right.
And we'll see where Nakobe is. We'll see where TJ is.
See where Jordan is.
We'll see where Jordan. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly. I'll put it in my little story idea envelope, and I'll pull it out after the Eagles win the Super Bowl in February. I mean,
all right, Ed, we got to let you go, but I got to ask you one question before we go, because you, like me, I see you're a coffee guy. McMullen drinks water when he's on the air, but I still like to drink coffee. Have you been drinking Black Rifle coffee today?
Oof.
You know, a friend of mine in Indianapolis, I go on his show every Saturday. He just bought me a bag of Black Rifle and sent it to me. And it's a big sponsor of his show.
You're canceled, Ed. You're canceled.
You are going to get canceled. You shouldn't admit to that here on Birds 365.
Well, I just had it like 2 weekends ago. He sent it to me.
I was just kidding. This was supposed to be a joke. Well, this wasn't supposed to be. Yes, I have my Black Rifle coffee right here, right now.
No, I didn't know the background of Black Rifle. He's like, it's a sponsor. And he asked me one time on the show, do you drink? And I said, I never have. And he said, I'm going to send you a bag. He sent me a bag. And you know what?
Was it good?
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah,
it could be. It
And
could be
that's
good.
I have never had it. I don't think I ever will. And the actual name is like not good, but you might be able to get away with it. But when part of their offerings are AK-47 espresso,
I know.
Silencer smooth,
And I didn't know any of
murdered
that.
out. That's a flavor, murdered out.
I didn't know
And
any
it's
of that.
now a major sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. What
Yeah,
the
that's not good.
hell?
That's not good. I just thought it was Black Rifle. I didn't know there was all these different brands and varieties of it. But I think
Which one did you get? Did you just get plain, or did he send you off the murdered out blend?
No, I didn't get anything that I thought that I found too offensive. I must have gotten just the plain, but it was not bad. And I think when you buy a bag, a portion of it goes to the military,
To the NRA. Yeah, way to go.
It might be the NRA. But listen, like I said, I just heard the advertisement, and he asked me. And I said, sure. And he sent me a bag. What am I going to do? Send it back? I drank it. It was not bad.
Yeah.
Do I buy it again now? Probably
That's
not.
good. Yeah.
God damn it. That's why we love you, Kratz. You come on.
God
you don't
bless
complain about me and John screaming at each other. You pump the products. You're the best, Ed Kratz.
You are the best.
I'm not pumping the products. I'm not telling people to buy. I'm just saying.
Now, there we go. See, now there is an example of an excellent trait, Jody. There's Ed Kratz backtracking like one of the greatest cornerbacks.
When in doubt, boom, do that 180. Good job, Kratz.
Yeah, I think I might make the top 10 list after the season.
Yeah. Look at him.
Kind of back pedal.
He just opened his hips and had a tremendous back pedal. There was Ed Kratz.
Spin and turn.
Yeah.
Eddie, good stuff. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you next
Ed.
week.
Sorry, Ed.
That's Ed Kratz. You don't have to apologize. I have to apologize because I went off, because both you and Ed are, in my estimation, you're evaluating, you're projecting, you're predicting, and I think you're both coming up short on how big a difference Nakobe Dean is going to make in the
I thought we were good. To be honest, I thought we were going to get more into Jalen being so low on the list, but we got into a wormhole.
I think you guys got Jalen exactly where he should be.
It all depends on your definition. Like Ed, I have a problem putting kickers on there. I mean, I see Ed. I mean, Jake Elliott does his job. You know, he's one of the best 25 doing his particular job. I just have a mental block when it comes to kickers. I have a hard time, putting them on a list of best 25 football players. But I could see other people having a different definition. And then, I mean, with rookies, it's really hard for me. And to be honest, if the Eagles picked a rookie probably 25th in the draft, like say Jalen Reagor's year. Now, and this is before Jalen Reagor's 21. Even Andre Dillard's year. I wouldn't have put them on the list. I mean, I have a difficult time putting rookies on a list of 25 best NFL players. That's how much I think of Jordan Davis. He's the outlier.
I was going to say, John, I concur with what you're saying, but if you're going to put Davis up as high as number 18, then you are taking a projectional look at what you think he's going to be able to do in his first year. So you're not just eliminating rookies.
Yeah, but he's the outlier. That's what I'm saying. He's the outlier, not Nakobe Dean.
Yeah,
he's the rare one, and that's why I bring up Andre Dillard, Jalen Reagor, players like that. I wouldn't have them in the top, and that was before they failed. I wouldn't have put them up that high.
All right, McMullen and McDonald, long second segment of the show. Quickie timeout coming. Chris Franklin yet to come. Keep it here on Birds 365.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama go up,
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings.
Uh-huh.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
You got your Mac and Mac Buds, McDonald and McMullen here with John Birch, 365. Chris Franklin, NJ.com, going to hop aboard. So we're very Eagle-centric today, even though I did bring up Black Rifle Coffee.
Black Rifle.
Who was it?
By the way, Chris Franklin joining us from vacation. So
no, where's he on vacay?
I don't know, but he said he's on vacation. Said he'd do the show Wednesday. I'm like, oh, thanks, but so God bless.
Got his
Chris
laptop
Franklin.
with him. Or are we going to get a beach backdrop?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We'll see.
That should be cool. And by the way, That's Deals is one of our regular streamers. We appreciate all you guys on the stream for commenting during the show. He says Black Rifle Coffee, damn good.
Yeah. Well, I can believe that. I mean, it's a difficult time for Black Rifle Coffee, I imagine. But there's no reason to think it can't be tasty.
Can't be a great coffee. We're commenting on the quality of the coffee. The reason why I brought it up with Ed, and you would have had to give me 100 to 1 ahead of time that the answer was going to be, oh yeah, I just had my Black Rifle Coffee. That was supposed to be a flippant off.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Not Ed actually commenting on
I had never heard of Black Rifle Coffee until
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday's the first time I ever heard of it, because there was a big story about the Cowboys announcing on Twitter via social media that they had struck a partnership with this Black Rifle Coffee, which prior to yesterday I'd never heard of. And I had no idea that they had blends, the 3 of which I just read to you, which I don't understand why, unless they are just making such a political statement tied to their product. Oh, if that's the way they want to do business, that's the way they want to do business. But for the Cowboys to announce the partnership the day after the mass shooting in Chicago, the morning after the incident here at the parade, the performance on the Parkway in Philadelphia, it just smacks of the worst possible timing and not understanding what's going on in the world around you. Why would the Cowboys announce it the day that they did yesterday?
Yeah, that's interesting. People jump to political leanings very quickly. I often, is it that or is it just incompetence and not realizing the moments? I do know.
Shame on them either way. Maybe a little more shame one way than the other, but it's a shame on the Cowboys either way, is it not?
Well, I agree, but I think one is much less incendiary than the other. I only say that for this reason, Jody. I know how little people give to their social media sort of outlets, and usually it's some kind of intern or low-level employee putting this stuff out there, and they do something stupid, and all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe, get somebody in that job who has some experience, who has, sort of a news head or, something of that nature. But, it's a sponsorship. So maybe they just rolled it out. It is Texas. I mean, the joke is when you hit Texas, they give you a gun when you enter the state.
Right,
I mean,
but aren't the Dallas Cowboys supposed to be America's team?
Yeah, well.
They're not insulated right there in Texas. I know where their hub of operation is, but they've been called America's team for 4 decades, 5 decades now, however long it's been ongoing.
Yeah. To me, the only question is what I said. Is it overt or is it incompetence? I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for now that it's incompetence. I think that's the lesser of two evils. But if you told me tomorrow it came out that then no, they did it on purpose, I wouldn't be shocked. But I'm leaning toward more incompetence than anything else. Right?
You're probably right, because at least what I saw 2 or 3 reports, people attempted to reach out to the Cowboys and ask why they decided to make this announcement on this day via social media, and the Cowboys did not respond. If it had been, no, they actually want to take a stance, make a statement, say they are Texas's team, then I think they would have responded. The fact that they didn't respond, they could be judging the water on public relations, but I think there's a better chance that they just said, yeah, no, we were planning to roll it out, and nobody went to person X whose job it was to put it out there on Twitter and go, no, we might want to hold off on this a couple days.
Yeah. And that's my guess. And it wasn't a good look. I think it's fair to say that, to say the least. It wasn't a good look for the Dallas Cowboys. But you know what? The news cycle is what it is, and people forget about it in 48 hours. So that's probably the strategy of not playing into the comments and, issuing a comment or things of that nature.
We got Chris Franklin joining us from vacation coming up next, so we'll jump back into the Birds. Fear not, Birds fans. But I do have one other National Football League question for you, John, just because it makes me laugh, and I like to laugh. Dueling NFL information. What's Zielski's description?
Broker, information broker.
2 dueling information brokers yesterday. Ian Rappaport said that, according to his sources, the Seattle Seahawks have never had any real interest in Baker Mayfield, which flies right in the face of a report this weekend that said Seattle was close to making a deal for Baker Mayfield. And Josina Anderson, who from time to time pops up here in Philadelphia because she's had some guys on the Eagles that she's been tight with and gotten information from. She says that's just inaccurate, that we will find out. It doesn't mean that the deal's going to get done, but she tweeted after Rappaport put out what he put out on Twitter. That's just inaccurate. I love when information brokers fight. It makes me smile when I see them going at each other, because this happens from time to time. One source's information says one thing, the other person's source of information says another. It's not impossible, but I love when information brokers fight.
Yeah, it is what it is. I've never.
Who do you think's got it right then?
Josina.
So then if that's the case, and you and I both agree on this, and both of us give our buddy Mike Sealski, who was here with yesterday, a ton of credit for coming up with that term because it fits perfectly. You are given information to put out there. Sometimes it's dead on accurate. Sometimes it's pretty damn misleading, but they want a specific narrative to be told. Why do you think they're leading Rappaport astray? Who do you think he's getting it from? If you think Josina's got it right, that the conversations have been had, maybe even they were close to a deal. Where do you think the misinformation from Rappaport is coming?
Well, probably from an agent trying to drum up more interest, would be my guess. That'd be the most likely part of it. Could be, Cleveland trying to drum up interest. Who knows? That to me is probably the goal, trying to get as much as possible for Baker Mayfield. Maybe you're trying to play off Carolina versus Seattle. So could be coming in a number of different directions. Josina's so plugged in with players that to me, I mean, she gets stuff directly from players. Directly from players.
Yeah, but see, this is more of a trade deal.
No, I know, but and I'm sure there's some players who leave things up to their agents, but there are not many who don't want to know what's going on. And I want to be surprised. Hey, you're going to show up in Seattle or Carolina, especially quarterbacks who tend to take a very big, part in their futures. But it's all just speculation from my part. I just know Josina gets stuff directly from players. So, and she rarely, her and people in this town don't like her for obvious reasons, but
right.
She try to find something she's gotten wrong over the years. It's very difficult.
Right. But every once in a while, players, I think very, very, very frequently, but every once in a while, the players will get into the misinformation game.
Not to her, though. Not to her. And that's part of it is the history. Maybe to me, maybe to other people, they'll tweak us and try to send us in a different direction. Not to her.
You think she gets the real deal every single time?
She has to date. She has to date.
Okay.
I got to give her credit.
I just would love to know
now
who would be giving her information. A player wouldn't know if they're talking. Seattle's talking to Cleveland about Baker Mayfield. That's an inside the room.
Well, the agent, his agent, I forget his agent probably knows, and his agent definitely knows Baker's. So that part of it, and he'll communicate it to his client. So that's how players sort of get the information. But when
you think Baker got it from his agent that they were talking, and then Baker gave it to Josina that, hey, yes, Seattle.
That would be my guess. Okay. Obviously, it's purely speculation, but that would be my guess.
I asked you to speculate. Thank you for speculating for me. All right, we'll ask Chris Franklin to speculate on a whole bunch of different Eagles things with us. He is live. He's on vacay. It looks like he's in a hotel room or something. I thought we were getting the beach backdrop.
No, he's outside, I think. He's outside.
Is he?
Yeah.
Outside?
I see him shaking his head.
Is that a yellow brick wall, not a curtain in the... God, punch him up real quick, Tone. Put Franklin in the box. We'll just say hi to him, and then we'll get the commercial break in. We have to get in. Are we not capable of doing it? There he is. What do you got in the background there, Chris Franklin?
He's on mute. Who's?
Oh, sorry, my bad. That was me. That was on me. I gotta do that. You got some siding, got some grass in the backyard right now. So I'm just enjoying it. It's a beautiful day. There's no work. So hey,
it's a rental property you're at, or is that
or is it a staycation?
Delaware. This
Delaware.
Was staycation. I was in Atlantic City last night. Probably going to Brigantine. Probably going to go down to Ocean City, Cape May later on, like a couple of days later. So yeah,
nice.
it's everywhere. So I'm enjoying this.
You're a traveling vacation guy.
Yeah,
Chris is like, I asked Chris to come on the show. He said, I'm on vacation, but I can do Wednesday. I'm like, wow, thanks, bud. I just like enjoy it. But
it's fun talk. It's legit fun talking Eagles with you guys. It's fun stuff. So it's fun. Gotta love that period. Woo! Sorry.
There you go. Before you know it, camp's going to be open. Grass time for you guys. All right, we'll come back with Chris Franklin in just a couple right here on Birds 365.
News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Appreciate you streaming on in here on Birds 365. Thanks for joining me with Chris Franklin from NJ.com, taking a couple of minutes out of his vacay to hop aboard with us.
Yes.
And we truly appreciate that, Franklin. You're too dedicated. You're over the friggin' top. But we readily take advantage of you. So thank you for allowing us to do so. All right.
No
here's where we're going. Question number one.
Okay.
I need you to give me a percentage. Gonna put it on the truthometer, okay?
Okay.
From 0 to 100. 0% truth being like, oh, I don't know. You watch the waitress with the beautiful derriere walk by you, and your significant other catches you, and you try and go down the road of, oh no, I was just checking out the hamburger on the tray. Yeah, right. Okay, that's a 0, and 100% is, oh yeah, I believe that. No question in my mind. He could walk into the confessional right now and say, Father, I'm telling the truth. And Father would say, yes, bless you, son. I believe you. So it's somewhere between 0 and 100%. Where do you put the Eagles statement of, if they hadn't taken Cam Jurgens in the second round, they would have taken Nakobe Dean?
As much as I like hamburgers and as much as I probably need to say 6 Hail Marys and everything, I probably put it around 30%. Because I really think that they were looking for offensive line in that section. Although I think personally I would have taken Dean in that spot, but something tells me I think they were looking very, very. I heard they were looking before they took Jurgens. They were looking to address one of those needs, either center or guard, around the interior offensive lineman around that spot. So I think it was a nice luxury when they look on the board and see in the third round. Then Nakobe Dean. Oh yeah, we always wanted him. It was a nice thing to say it then, but I think overall
here's why. And I'm stepping on everybody today, and I apologize for it, but you can tell I really like Nakobe Dean. But the Eagles are just so full of it; it's ridiculous. If they actually wanted to take him where they took Cam Jurgens, and they're good with the pick, whatever we were thinking about taking it, and 5 picks go by and they don't do anything, and 10 picks go by and they don't do anything, and 20 picks go by and they don't do anything, and 25 picks go by and they don't do a thing. Are you telling me if you were actually going to take the kid in the second round and he's sitting there, you're going to let someone else pick him off the board in the third round? No way. You're going to move up 5 slots, 3 slots, 2 slots, whatever you got to do. Give up that stinking 7th round pick to get up there and assure yourself of Nakobe Dean. I think that is 100% revisionist history.
Well,
here's going to take him in the second.
Here's where I like Chris's number. I'd like that number 30. I might even go as high as 35, 40. But I find it hard to believe. But from Jody's perspective, well, they had to give up 4 picks to go get, Jordan Davis. So they didn't have a lot to go up once they made the Davis trade. And the last thing, they only had 5 picks to begin with. If you're moving up again, then you even have less than that. So I think that affected things. And then I kind of look at 51. So the Eagles took Cam Jurgens at 51. Who was there at positions of need? Everybody thought cornerback at the time because that was, pre-James Bradbury. Cam Taylor-Britt was the next corner who went 60. I'm trying to look at that. And then it was Martin Emerson at 68. So I don't know. There weren't a lot of people for the Eagles to select. If somebody took Jurgens at 50, I think there's an outside chance they would have took Dean at 51. But I like 30%, Chris.
And especially when you look at the way the team values linebackers, at the most part, they already had Kaiser White. They already had TJ Edwards. They say they were still very much invested in Davion Taylor. So a linebacker looked pretty set. I think it's one of those situations where he fell in their lap. And they're just like, wait, he's still on board? We're probably going to catch some heat if we don't pick him. Because they don't, when you look long term, TJ Edwards' contract's in next year. You sign White's 1-year deal. It's so much influx. You don't know what and speaking of Taylor, you still don't know what you truly have in him. So I think it was a pick that fills 2 holes. And I still look at that second round and you look back at the history of this team and trying to pick linebackers, and they gave up Devin White. They gave up that first one. They got A.J. Brown with it, which is a good one, but you could have used the pick to move up or to get back in the first round to get guys like that. But it just looked overall. But
all right,
revisionist history.
All right, I'm going to give you another 0 to 100 question. Have some fun with this one. We are an all-star team quote last week from our buddy Miles Sanders. 0 being 0 effect. Nothing burger has 0 effect on the Eagles' upcoming season to 100%. Oh, shoot, he just Vince Young'd us with the Dream Team comment. Give us we know it's going to fall somewhere in the middle. Which is it closer to, complete and utter nothing burger to, oh, shoot, there goes my dream. It's a nightmare. He screwed us by going down that road.
I think it's a 0. Personally, I think he was looking, and I think he got enough veteran talent around there and the coaching staff were to keep that team in check, because it's sort of like when I look at this team, I hear something like that. It's sort of like what Herb Brooks said, like Kurt Russell says, Herb Brooks is a miracle. Like, this team is not talented enough to win on talent alone. So I think that the veterans know what's going on with that. They know the whole entire situation. They've been through something like this, so they won't do this. Now, if Sanders comes out and plays like Ronnie Brown a couple this season, then I think we look back at that moment and go, oh, well, there it is. But I think overall, when you look at everything else, when you say stuff like that, it's nothing. It really truly is nothing. He may get set. He may get brought in and go, hey, listen, calm down a little bit, but I think he's hearing that from everybody else now. But I think it's nothing when it comes to that.
I'm with you. I'm with you at 0%. And I'm going to go this far, Chris. I think Vince Young was 0%. And I saw your buddy Les Bowen at NJ.com kind of wrote about that. Les was there for the Vince Young stuff. You and I weren't covering the team at that point. So he actually went through that stuff. Other than other people taking Vince Young's comments, it had nothing to do with that team underachieving. Nor will, if this particular team underachieves, a bunch of us will write stories about, hey, remember when Miles said it was an all-star team?
As well you should.
Yeah. But it will have no effect on them not being an all-star team. And I look at it from this perspective with Miles. I'd rather have a guy say that than a guy that said, oh, golly, gee, shucks, I don't know how good we are. I don't want that guy. I don't know why people have such a problem. What do you want Miles to say? No, we stink. We stink. We're terrible. I get it. You could be, more tempered and say we got a chance to be very good. You can do it more politically, but I don't have a problem with it.
All right. So then let me ask this of both of you, because it's quite kind of like what Miles did. Yesterday, Micah Parsons of the Cowboys said that he and Trayvon Diggs, combined as a defensive duo, can be better than Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Do you take that same stance of, well, that's what you expect them to say? It's a confidence thing. It's a good thing. Good on them.
I would love it. I would love it if I were a Cowboys fan. I would love it.
You'd want your guys to think they're the best. If they're thinking like, hey, you know what? Oh, we're like mid-tier guys. We're in the middling. We're nowhere near that. Then you start to question about, you go to your scouts and go, why'd you get me a guy who doesn't have confidence in his makeup? You start to question his makeup a little bit. I just think I don't get. And on a separate note, I actually like what Sanders said, because it was actually a player actually giving some real insights. It wasn't the can lines. It wasn't looking at that one too. He was actually open with the CBS guy, and if that's, and I put the caveat, if Miles said that he was taken out of context. If that's what it was taken out of context, and that's a whole other story. If he was actually being real, that's I welcome them being open with that, and I think a lot of guys now want to see some of that stuff, and they're like, well, we can't be open and can't be real, thinking what we really believe in this locker room now. Maybe we can just go with we're going to take it one day at a time. We're going to just do everything else. I'm like, I actually thought it was kind of refreshing to see that from a player, especially when it comes to an Eagles player. So I thought,
and I think it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy for a player. I look at Slay Slay thinks he's the best corner in football, and he's close to it. Now you got to have the physical gifts. Obviously, you got to have that as a foundation, but it doesn't hurt to think you're the best corner in football if you have the confidence to go, you know what? There's nobody's going to beat me. I love it. Devontae Smith's got that sort of understated confidence as well as a young player. Every time I see it, I think it's a really, really good thing. And that includes, Eagles fans aren't going to like it, but that includes Dallas. And Micah Parsons, why not, man? That guy he's not going to be Aaron Donald, but he really, you talk about a rookie player. I can't remember a rookie player being that dominant since maybe Javon Kearse back with Tennessee. That was the last rookie I saw dominate. Maybe Aaron Donald. Aaron's in every conversation. But it doesn't happen that often. I think confidence is a big part of it.
And you need that, because when this team goes through that stretch where they have to play the Packers and you play the Titans, there's that stretch of the schedule where it's going to be tough. There may be about 2 or 3 losses in a row. I really think it could be that, especially late in the season. We're in the heat of trying to jockey for positioning, not only for the NFC East, but potentially playoff season. So if you have guys that are confident in that and say, hey, you know what? I know we're better at this. I know we're good at this. Look at the talent around this room. We can do this and move on. That helps out a lot in going, all right, guys, we suck. All right, we're done. It's over. Let's sit back and, you know what? I got plans for Mexico after the season's over because we're done. So stuff like that. Yeah, you'd rather those confident guys.
Nobody wants to see him go there to Mexico after the season unless it's way after the season, like sometime in February. Looked up the over-under numbers for the Eagles this year, Chris Franklin. Over-under 10.5 wins for the Eagles this year. Plus minus 125. So you'd have to put up 125 to win 100 if you believe the Eagles are going to win 10 games or more. Plus a 10.5 over under if you think they're winning 11 games, plus 170. So you only have to put up 100 to win 170. So that's the cutting line between 10 and 11. If you were making a play, which one do you feel confident enough to get to 11 to get the extra juice to get it up to 170, or you drawing a line at 10 wins for the Eagles this year?
11 was my number for this season, so I'm feeling confident laying that down. I really thought it was because when I look at I think the losses are going to be the Packers. I look at the Titans. I look at one of the Cowboys losses. I look at the Cardinals as a loss. And I think that last Giants game when they had nothing to play for, I think that's a loss too. Otherwise, when you look at all the other stuff that they have now, I think everything else is in play. So I look at that and I think I'd comfortably take the 11 wins. And I'm shocked. I saw that line and I remember the first open was 9.5. And I think a lot of people in Vegas and maybe you got heavily influenced in Philadelphia bumped it up to that 10.5. So I definitely take the Eagles in that.
You know, one of the things is expectations. That's been one of my themes, Chris. And it seems like this dead period has been all optimism for the Eagles. Everybody's coming out with lists and they have a top 10 roster and their offensive line is the best in football. Their defensive line is top 10. They have great duo of corners. Their receivers, they haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver, it seems like, in forever, yet they have a top 5 receiving group, according to Pro Football Focus. We know about the tight end. A lot of talent on this team. If it goes in a negative direction, how much heat comes on this coaching staff? It's very rare you have the continuity, the exact same coaching staff together for a second straight season. How much heat comes down on that coaching staff as a whole?
Well, it's going to be a lot, especially through the first 6 games. If this team comes out and looks flat, if it looks like the offense is stagnant, if it looks like there's the pass rush is not getting what it should be, given that what you have now on that front line with the addition of Hassan Reddick, I know it's going to take like maybe a game or two. Like I'll even give him a game to get in really in the flow for a newer guys to get into that system and get acclimated and get a good true feel sense with game speed. But if this 6 games in and you look at this team and they're 500 or below, I'd say even 500, like they're 33 or below 500, then I think you'll start to see a lot of the people will start questioning Sirianni. People will start questioning the change for the play calling. People will start looking at Gannon, and we're going to start hearing that why he's a defensive coordinator, why not. I think you see a lot of that starting to happen, but especially with the schedule. If they don't start the season probably like 4-2, given who they have to play, then it might be some rough times. It won't be fun in Philadelphia.
Sure. Along those lines, and I think we've addressed this with you before. You come on often enough while you're on vacation, so I think we already went there. But doubling back, Shane Steichen. I didn't know he was calling the play second half of the season. They kept that pretty well under wraps, and it comes out just recently that was the case, and Shane's going to have the responsibility to start the year this year. Talk about pressure. Yeah, the difference between he was just like a guy calling in the plays that we all believe Sirianni was calling all the plays. He basically was a communicator. So what? Who cares? I could do that. John could do that. John's dog could do that. Anybody can call in the plays. Now we know he's the guy who's actually choosing the plays. How much more pressure on Steichen this year?
I think now, given that the additions they have now, I think it's a lot more. I wonder how much we're going to see more of a vertical change staying with that as opposed to more of the screen game and the run game, because that was the MO when we heard him when he was coming and joining the Eagles, was that he's heavily into the run game and screen game, even when he had Justin Herbert, but that's kind of what helped Herbert develop as a quarterback. So I want to know how much he's going to actually, continue to try to take the shots down the field, put those pressures on the safeties to try to open stuff up in the middle, because I really think they can really do that. And it kind of helps. So I think it's going to help Jalen Hurts, I think, as well, too. Having a former quarterback that's there that understands the game, that's been in some pressure situations. He was at UNLV, and you look at a guy like that, and he's the one that was always in Hurts' ear calling the plays and radioing the plays. And so that familiarity continues over, too. So I just want to see how aggressive he's going to be when it comes to taking those shots out field. Because if they are, I think they're going to act like the big jabs to soften up the defenses so you can take advantage of that middle of the field with the speed that this team has.
Chris, along this coaching theme we've gone down, I think we all expect changes. You mentioned some of them offensively being more vertical. You have A.J. Brown now. You have another a full season as a starter under the belt of Jalen Hurts. More experience there. Defensively, we all know the excuses or explanations, whatever adjective you want to use, for Jonathan Gannon, the soft shell coverage. We expect changes with all the talent: Hassan Reddick, Jordan Davis, Kaiser White, Nakobe Dean, James Bradbury, on and on and on. If one is the same, what would you be more disappointed? In other words, if the Eagles show up with the same offense and the same defense, what's worse?
I think if the Eagles show up with the same defense, I think that's considerably worse, given that I think, because I'm one of the people that believe they have, when you look on paper, and this is just on paper, not what they did last year, because everybody knows that was just putrid. Second fewest sacks. That was just, with that lineup, that was just disappointing. I look at what they do
now.
Top
10 defense, though, Chris.
Yeah,
Top 10.
Statistics are wonderful, aren't they? That's why I wasn't in math. I wish I should have been in math. but when you look at the, I think given that the guys now you have that you can disguise a bit more coverages, given the guys, I think you can get more of a pass rush guys who I think actually get to the quarterback and wrap them up and not miss tackles. And there were some times last year where they dialed up some blitzes and it looked good, but then maybe you saw Alex Singleton fall off somebody, maybe you saw the corner not get there. I think they have guys now that can actually get to the quarterback and actually wrap them up, actually rack up sacks. Are they going to be the league leaders? I don't think so. I think they could be in the a lot better. I think definitely more than 29 sacks better, but I think we look at, especially the secondary, with adding Bradbury, having that cornerback trio with Maddox and Slay as well too. Unless Marcus Epps or whoever's back there, Tart or whoever, whatever combination of safeties are back there, unless they completely bomb or something like that, I think this defense can be better. And if Gannon continues to play it safe and not want to take risks and where guys aren't playing up to that level, I think that's where the defense, if they come back playing the same type of style, I think that's going to be more disappointing.
All right, Chris, you pointed out the Eagles play 4 games before the bye week. You got Detroit, Minnesota, Washington, Jacksonville, Arizona, and then the biggest game of the year to that point, and what may turn out to be the biggest game of the year overall, the Cowboys here on Sunday, October 16th. We think the Eagles should be above 500 at that point. If they're at 500, that's not great. If they're below 500, you're screwed. Chances are, if you lose that game against Dallas at home, Dallas is probably going to win the division. Knowing that everyone is watching the early part of the schedule and evaluating the Eagles off the competition that they're playing or not playing, how do the Eagles balance putting in all the proper prep time, putting the proper emphasis on how important the quick start is, and the overall edict of, but we don't want to get hurt. We don't want to push the envelope. We don't really want to put in too much work because our stats show us, our analytics prove that if we do less, we get more from our non-injured players. How does Sirianni manage that contradiction?
I think it's the biggest benefit for them is that they have the system coming back. They know what they're running already. So they got a second year into it. You don't have to do so much teaching and start to go, this is how I want our routes run. This is how I want our blitz look. This is where I want you to line up. I don't think you have to do that as much besides with the rookies and some of the developmental players. So that gives them time to do that. And this is naturally the only game I think, 2 games I would worry about Detroit, and not because it's just this, hey, it's Detroit Lions. You're like, it's the Lions. It shouldn't be that. Only because it's the first game, you don't know what the team's going to do, and they had a whole entire offseason to prep for that. The other one is like Cowboys too. So because it's going to be amped up. His team has lost 3 straight to them, and you want to basically in that schneid and say, hey, you know what, we're going to play a little bit better this year. We're going to come for that division. So I think for looking at everything, I think it's going to be like a 4-2 start. I think they win that. The thing that's going to happen is I think they win those first 4, and then everybody's going, hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. The Eagles are here. They're for real. And then they win the next 2. Oh, this team stinks. We knew this wasn't what they play. They can't play a competition. It's going to be. I guess right now it happens like. Here we go again. This sounds very familiar, but I think it's going to be one of those things. But I think it's going to become. I just think it's going to come naturally. These guys are going to come out. I think they'll have the task at hand. I think they're going to get used to the stuff. But I think they're already used to the system, and it's a matter of execution. I think they'll do that against those first 4 teams.
4-0 would look nice. At C. Franklin News joining us from his staycation, so we very much appreciate that. Enjoyed the shore this weekend, Chris. I will leave you with this. Both Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon both say we're talking about statistics, and you can mold statistics any way you want. But they've been pretty consistent. The 2 ways you win in this league are turnovers and explosive plays. From the offensive perspective, you want explosive plays. You don't want turnovers. From the defensive perspective, you got to limit both. You got to limit explosive plays. You got to get turnovers. They both say that constantly. Those are the 2 numbers they look at. Those are the 2 numbers that relate to wins and losses. Are they simplifying things too much, do you think? Or is that the way you win in the modern NFL?
I think you still win. I think especially you have to win on the offensive and defensive line. You have to win the trenches to give yourself enough time to allow yourself to get those explosive plays on both sides. Because if you get the pass rush, you get the explosive plays of pass against defensively to limit those. You got to get a good pass rush from your front 4 or 5, whatever you send that way. And then when it comes to offensively, you have to have your offensive line giving you time to go down deep when they want to. So I think overall, I think you have to do that because you have to put a lot of pressure on there. And I think with the Eagles, especially offensively, I think they can get a lot of explosive plays on offense, given that you have these 3 wide receivers now, including Quez Watkins and Dallas Goedert. So you're constantly going at teams. You keep constantly stretching the field, constantly going at. How many teams can you really truly name that have 3 or 4 legit defensive backs, especially corners as well too, especially a good nickel back that can actually keep up with 3 different ones? If you put Quez Watkins in the slot, I'll take that chance of him going deep against a safety versus say another guy. Now, if you have Quez get your number 2, that. But I think especially when you look at the explosive plays overall for both sides, I think that I'd say that's a fair statement to say that that's how you have to win. You have to take a lot of chances, and you can't play it safe and think and dunk your way down the field with 17 play drives for like 9 minutes because you're limiting your chances to have success. How many possessions you have, so you need that.
Who's going to get more snaps this year, Quez Watkins or Zach Pascal?
Ooh, that's tough. They like to play a lot of 11 personnel, the 1 running back and 1 tight end. So I'd probably say, so you know what? I want to hedge my back. And the only reason I'll say this, I think it's going to be Pascal. Because I think especially when this team's going to be up in a lot of those games, and when you have Pascal, when you run that 4-minute drill, you have Pascal and his blocking ability, I think he edges him out slightly. I think you'll see Quez in a lot more when it comes to those passing situations or if the game's close. I think that's when you see Quez in there for his big playability. But when the team's up and they're trying to run a thing,
Chris Franklin, that is an excellent point. The Eagles should hope for more Zach Pascal. Eagles fans, that might be counterintuitive for them.
Right.
But you're right. If they're in the 4-minute drill late in games, it's going to be Zach Pascal in there. And for blocking when they run the football.
Purposes, absolutely right.
That is an excellent point. A gold star for me, Chris Franklin.
Yay!
Even though he's on vacay and relaxing and not supposed to be worried about football, he's good enough to hop on with us and come up with gems of intelligence on the Eagles. Mr. Franklin, enjoy the rest of your vacation. We'll be getting you back on the show before you know it. Thanks, bud.
Hey, I appreciate it. You guys have a good one now. I hope you guys enjoy your time too.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris Franklin. Oh, he's gone. Good. Okay. Never mind. Construction in the background? Was that the loudest woodpecker we've ever heard in the background?
No, that was a hammer. That was no woodpecker.
Okay.
That was a neighbor. Yeah, Chris confirms that was a neighbor hammering. Yeah.
What was going on at your place last week?
Tree guys were
guys. Okay.
Yeah, that's really noisy.
See,
but I got a heck of a woodpecker, man. This woodpecker has created a hole in one of my trees in the backyard. It's amazing. It's like perfectly round. It is the best bird-made birdhouse of all time. It is tremendous work.
Do you reference him as Woody?
I don't, but I enjoy him, and my wife can't stand him because he makes so much. I love him.
Then you got to say, come on. I can't be getting on Woody.
Yeah,
he's our neighbor. He's our guy. He's hanging out in our backyard.
He is my guy. Woody is my guy.
Making a hell of a hole in that tree. But that was funny that it was as loud as it was. But that's the beauty of listening to Birds 365 here on YouTube. We're not in some fancy studio somewhere, volume enclosed. No, this is us hanging with you guys. You're dealing with stuff around you in life right now. So are your Birds 365 guys. And you never know when somebody's going to break out a hammer and just start pounding on something in the background. Hey, Franklin came on while he's on vacation. How can you complain about that? He's a dedicated
love the guy.
helper
love
to
him.
Birds 365. Jody Mack coming back. We still got 10 minutes left. We got more Birds 365 talk for you. So keep it right here.
News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
All right, did you know I was the mommy slam dunk champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake a mom. Mama go up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Got John McMullen and Jody McDonald putting the ball on the show here on Birds 365. John, here's what I want to finish with today. Respect. There's a lot of different ways to use that word, to think that word, to incorporate that word into a sports debate and or conversation. Usually it has to do with lack thereof, except like yesterday, Lane Johnson talked about the kind of respect that Jalen Hurts gets in the locker room as the leader of that football team. And a lot of people are hanging a lot on Jalen Hurts, that this is going to help to carry him this year and get the Eagles where they have to get to, because he generates that respect. Well, there's respect, and then there's disrespect. In case you missed the beginning of the show, I questioned the disrespect that my partner and his partner, Ed Kratz, showed to Nakobe Dean by not making him one of the top 25 Eagles this year.
You're going to get me blocked from Nakobe Dean now. Come on, Jody. That's not disrespect.
You did what you did, John. You just flat out disrespected him. And if you had no rookies on there, and that was your way of deciding, hey, he hasn't played it down yet, no guy could be in the top 25, I'm not putting a rookie on there, I could see it. But when you put Davis up at number 18, and you don't include Nakobe in the top 25, that's disrespect. All right, I'm going to bring up another disrespect here. The Philadelphia Eagles. On your hometown wagering app, you're going to benefit from this, Eagle fans. Believe me when I tell you this. BetParks is the sports app that I have on my phone that I do commercials for. They are your hometown betting outlet. The updated NFL championship odds. Who do you think the favorite is, Johnny Mac?
I guess the Rams still.
The Rams would be your fifth choice.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Well, then I got to go Tampa Bay.
Would be the second choice at plus 750, which means 7.5 to 1.
It's not Green Bay, is it?
Green Bay would be your third choice at plus 1,000, which means 10 to 1 on the Packers.
Who am I missing? It can't be Dallas. Who am I missing? I'm going to kick myself. Just tell me who number one is.
Fourth would be the Kansas City Chiefs at 10 to 1.
Oh, total. I'm sorry. I was thinking NFC. Sorry. Total. Buffalo would be number one.
Buffalo Bills are your Super Bowl favorite right now at 6.5 to 1. Tampa 7.5. Green Bay 10. You and I are both Aaron Rodgers fans, but I don't know they should be 10.
That's
the third overall choice.
They're always, higher than they should be because of Aaron.
Because Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. And chances are there's a little Mahomes magic in there too.
Yeah.
Because they're fourth at 10 to 1. The Rams are 11 to 1. The Chargers are 15 to 1. They're sixth.
Yeah, I love the Chargers. Love them. I don't know if the coach can hold up, but
I like them, but I don't know that they should be number 6 overall. 49ers at 16 to 1 are 7th. The Denver Broncos, now led by Russell Wilson, coming out of a real tough division, are 8th at 17 to 1. The Ravens, with all that the Lamar Jackson questioning contract stuff sitting over their head, 18 to 1. They're next. The Dallas Cowboys also at 18 to 1. The Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl last year. They should earn your respect.
No respect. There's no respect, Jody. The Cincinnati Bengals.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11th. The Cincinnati Bengals 11th right now at 22 to 1. Tied with the Indianapolis Colts at 22 to 1. At 30 to 1, the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun, I guess he's only going to miss 6 games. He sits the entire game. Good luck with getting Jacoby Brissett to a championship at 30 to 1 if he gets the entire year. And co-choices at 30 to 1, the Philadelphia Eagles. Despite some people saying some real good things about the Eagles and underrated and flying under the radar, whatever else, where it kind of matters, where people put their money where their mouth is, the Eagles are still 30 to 1 on the ParksBet app right now, behind the likes of the Cleveland Browns, the Indianapolis Colts, the Dallas Cowboys, the didn't make the playoffs last year, Baltimore Ravens. At least Denver I can swallow because they got Russell Wilson. But they didn't make the playoffs last year either. And they're above the Eagles. I think the Eagles are being disrespected, Johnny Mac. I think Birds fans got to take advantage of this. Get to the BetParks app and get 30 to 1.
you're looking for value. You're more the betting. You're more the odds guy than me. So I'll throw this back at you. I know we don't have a lot of time. But look, to me, the AFC is just better than the NFC, right?
Yes.
We can all agree with that. But that, to me, makes it harder for a lot of those AFC teams. That second-tier AFC group, it makes it harder for them to make the Super Bowl. The Eagles aren't dealing with that same difficult road as some of those Indianapolis, Cleveland teams you were mentioning toward the end of the AFC. There's no way they're getting there because there's no way they're hopping. Well, Cleveland's interesting because, we don't think Deshaun's going to play, and that could change things. But somebody like Indianapolis and even Tennessee, I don't know where Tennessee's getting disrespected, but
they weren't even mentioned. Yeah. They won the most games in the AFC, and they're behind the Eagles.
But those teams have such a difficult
Tennessee,
road.
35-1.
Yeah, they have such a difficult road. I that's not value to me. The Eagles, you got a couple injuries and certain situations, and their path is much, much easier. So if you're looking for value, look at the NFC side. Don't look at the AFC side.
Except
that would be my advice.
You want real value. If you're just talking purely from a value standpoint, you start at the back and work your way up, right?
Yeah.
The Houston Texans are 1,000 to 1. No, excuse me, 3,000 to 1.
Yeah. Wow.
The Falcons are 2,000 to 1. The Seahawks are 1,500 to 1. I'll book any of that. Anybody who wants to bet the Seahawks, I probably shouldn't do it this week. I should wait till they don't get Baker Mayfield, but Drew Lock or Geno Smith. Oh, I'll take any of your money that they don't win this and give you 1,500 to 1. The Jets, unfortunately, 1,500. Jaguars, 1,200. Lions, Bears, 1,200. Carolina, the Giants, the Commanders. Here's the first team that I can make just a stretch legitimate argument they could win the Super Bowl. Steelers are 80 to 1. What happens if Kenny Pickett is all that in a bag of chips? Ben Roethlisberger stepped in as a rookie and went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's the best. That's the first one. Give me the percentage chance Texans make the Super Bowl, John.
0.
Atlanta.
0.
Seahawks.
0.
Jets.
0.
Our boy Dougie P with the Jags.
1% because of Trevor Lawrence.
All right. Lions.
0.
Bears.
0. -0.
Panthers.
0.
Giants.
0.
Commanders.
1%.
Oh, I put them at 0 too. And then the Steelers. And you're right. It's like 2. So 2 is better than 0.
Okay.
And it's better than the 1 you slapped on Trevor Lawrence and or the Commanders, whose defense for me is woefully overrated.
I am still hanging on. See, I'd go Jacksonville. I still hang. Well, everybody knows I like Doug Peterson a lot. Trevor Lawrence has a chance to be a superstar. And if you were a superstar quarterback, now I'm also, I just said stay away from the AFC. So I'm going against my own advice. But if you're looking for that home run at a left field, Jacksonville, because of Trevor Lawrence. Now, it's a terrible organization. Sorry, Tony Khan. It's a terrible organization, but he's so good. He's so talented. He's so talented. If the light comes on, man, maybe you have lightning in a bottle.
125 to 1. Yeah, I'll take the Steelers at 80. Even though 80 isn't 125, I'll take the Steelers.
I'm just looking for a little sliver somewhere. A little sliver. I would bet. In other words, I'm betting on Trevor Lawrence over Kenny Pickett. That's essentially what I'm doing.
Right. And that's understandable, but it is the Jaguars and Steelers. You do have to bet on the other 52 players. That whole conversation about the Cowboys, 52 plus 1. The Cowboys might have better roster if you add the quarterback. You take the quarterback away. Oh, Eagles got the better roster than the Cowboys do. Yeah, you do have to evaluate all 52 players. Partner, good show today. Tomorrow we got Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network is going to be joining us. Philly guy. Looking forward to talking to him I'm planning on coming back here tomorrow, and I'm going to do it from the same spot. There's going to be no hammering going on. I have no woodpecker behind me.
I might have a woodpecker. I might have a woodpecker.
The ocean green screens, and that's going to be it. But I'm back here tomorrow. How about you?
I will do it. Woodpecker along my side, hopefully.
The Mac and Mac guys will return in 2-2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.